What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor live stream. Today's topic, key business takeaways of 2021. Whoa, was this one hell of a year for me? And I can't wait to share with you some of the big takeaways that I learned. Awais has a few takeaways as well that we're going to share with you in hopes that some of them resonate, some of them you could take and implement and help you build a stronger business for 2022. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't plug this quick little brand assessment every single video. But listen, guys, straight up, if you are looking for help in 2022 when it comes to brand identity, brand strategy, getting your messaging right to the right people, crafting the right products and services for the right people, the first step in me helping you do all of that is taking this assessment. I can promise you it's going to get you that clarity and focus you need in order to figure out what exactly you need to do next when it comes to properly branding your business. So you can head over to uniquedesignz.net after the show and book that. Now, let's get into today's topic. And I really want everybody, if you want to share some of your takeaways, please drop them in the comments. Looks like Amy's in the house. What's going on, Amy? Welcome to the live stream again. She seems to be one of those new viewers that have been very consistent. So I want to give a shout out to Amy for coming through on the last couple of live streams. So, Awais, let's kick this off, right? What was one big business takeaway for you in 2021?
All right, so look, you and I have been working together for almost 2 years.
Wow,
I think about 18 months.
Hasn't been that long.
Yeah,
hasn't been that long.
It's not 2 years yet, but about 18 months now.
Wow.
Okay, so when I first engaged you, I said, hey, look, I'm one of the biggest challenges I'm having is with public speaking, and particularly getting out in front of a digital audience. And I love the content that you put out, the video content particularly, and I want to be able to go down that same path. And I think it was about 11 months in, so I would say around March of this year, and you're like, Awais, what the hell is going on? You haven't produced anything. I haven't seen one thing published from you. So obviously, you're holding me accountable. That's what you should be doing. So, like, Awais, what's happening? Tell me what's going on. I was like, Henry, everything that I'm putting out, like, it just, I'm struggling. Like, it's not, I'm not. It's not up to what I want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't be. I think the more from that is I was not able to have the fluid thought process behind the type of content that I wanted to put out. It sounded more scripted, and I wasn't able to articulate as well as I wanted to. But all of that comes through repetition. All of that comes through continued exposure to pain and discomfort. And up till that point, it was painful and uncomfortable. Right? So I have to give you a lot of credit on this, man, because you took a chance on me and brought me on to onto your platform, onto this live stream, and helped me get through that fear. And what that fear was around was really the fear of judgment, fear of everyone else's judgment, fear of me taking a misstep and saying something that wasn't in line with what we were talking about, that wasn't consistent with the brand that you had already set up. So I had a significant responsibility, and it challenged me. It challenged me to step up. It challenged me to show up. And I had a responsibility to you, to your brand, and to your audience. perhaps, you didn't approach it that way, but that's the perception that I had in my mind. And I was like, look, this is a great opportunity. However, let's make sure that, I'm consistent with it, and let's make sure that, I bring in the level of information that is going to be valuable to your audience.
Mm.
So, again, my biggest takeaway from that entire experience, now we're what, 8, 9 months into that entire exercise, showing up here twice a week.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I can now sense a much more confident attitude, and a much less anxiety
Yeah.
when I show up into these conversations.
Yeah, listen, it's like you said before, it's that repetition, it's that consistency. Every time you do it, it gets easier,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, you realize that, I'm not really doing this for me. I'm doing this for them
Exactly.
being the audience, right?
Yeah.
And that changes the whole feeling of why you're doing what you're doing, and doing what you're doing, right?
Absolutely.
Amy says here, comparative superiority robs everyone. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It'll grab you by the throat and slam you down pretty quickly. If you don't build the muscle to
Exactly.
combat it. And so I got to tell you, you're doing a hell of a job. And, for 2022, I want to see you start to do more of this on your own without me. I don't want to be your crutch anymore, because I think you have the tone, and you have the strength to do this, man. Look at what you've done since April. I mean, you've come such a long way. So
Absolutely.
big shout out to you there, my friend. Listen, it starts with one step, and it gets easier, man. Just like anything else in life. So I appreciate you sharing that. So one of the takeaways that I learned in business this year was not to hold on to bad decisions. Okay. I made a couple bad decisions earlier this year. Actually, it was the end of last year that I got into 2 investments that just were bad decisions. I didn't do my homework properly. I'm going to talk about that later on in my last big takeaway. But I got around a group that just wasn't a good fit for me. I got around a service provider that just wasn't a good fit for me. And why do I say that? It's because I know who I am, and I know who I'm not. And when I get pigeonholed into places that I know that I'm not good in, I become like this ravishing tiger that wants to get out at all costs. But here's the problem. In the beginning of the year, I started to realize that these decisions were bad ones. And I held on to those bad decisions for too long. And what happened was it made me bitter. It made me really bitter. And I started to attract bitter people in my life. And it made me realize, and this was another big takeaway, is you attract what you are. You attract who you are. So if you want to attract bitter people in your life that are going to just weigh you down and wear you out over time, you better look in the mirror to double check to see if that's you. Chances are it is. And I'll never forget it. It was probably, I held on to this for way too many months this year. And I remember it was right after the summertime, I finally got over that bitterness. And I let that bad decision, I just let it go. Like I got in front of it. right? And it was now behind me. Complete change in who was showing up in my life, whether it's personal or professional, whether it's clients or no clients. A completely different energy of person started showing up in my life. So those were two big ones for me, was not holding on to bad decision. Listen, once you figure out that it's a bad decision, chalk it up as a loss, chalk it up as a lesson, and move on as fast as you can. And
your loss to move forward, man.
That's it. And if you want a higher caliber community, if you want to be around higher quality people, if you want to be around higher caliber people, you need to be that yourself.
That's right.
And there's going to be people that are going to try to tell you things like, who do you think you are? You you entitled piece of shit, this, that, and the other thing. Listen, at the end of the day, this is what matters the most. You knowing who you are, because that will dictate what shows up in your life. So that was mine. So Awais, give me another one, buddy.
All right. So authenticity. I leaned into authenticity, and this connects with my previous one about the public speaking, but more importantly, being able to embrace my imperfections, my failures. Again, it was all challenged through the live audience. Just sitting here in front of the live audience and saying, "Hey, look, this is where I've fallen short. This is where I failed in the past. These are my flaws, right? This is where that again, like I said, the fear of judgment of others is or that the comparison, all of those things that were holding me back from being someone that could perform better. And it was all through it was all mediated, or it all stemmed from my constant pursuit for perfection. I started out as a creative, and what challenged me, or what kept me from scaling at the rate that I should have been scaling, is my pursuit for perfection. What kept me from being able to be more present on social media for others, not just for myself, is my desire to show up as someone perfect, and not recognizing that none of us are perfect, and embracing my flaws, right? And so I was telling you offline how this one quote that just, I guess it's one of those things when you're constantly thinking about it and embracing the opposite, that a quote just comes your way and just hits you. And there was this quote that just completely changed my perspective about 2 weeks ago. And it says, "You don't need to be perfect to inspire others. Let people get inspired by how you deal your perfection."
It's huge. It's huge.
And so that, to me, I was like, look, I'm going to lean into that now. That's how I'm going to convey my authenticity, because I already knew I valued authenticity. I already knew that was one of my core values, but I didn't know how to lean into it. A couple of years back, when I hired someone on, and I was being pushed and pressured to present an image that was not consistent with me, that wasn't consistent with the business that I was trying to build. I wasn't consistent with the type of client that I was wanting to attract. Right? They weren't going to respond to that type of a behavior or that type of an image.
You were going to attract that type of person that you didn't want to be.
Exactly. And so, from that moment, I already recognized that how important authenticity was for me. But when it came to presenting myself to the world, I didn't know how to lean into that until all of these things started showing up very recently. And I said, okay, well, you know what? Time to embrace where I'm falling short and say, either I'm working on it, or I find this to be a challenge, or I struggle with it.
Mm.
But this is not keeping me back in any way.
It's huge. It's huge. You know, that self-awareness and knowing that is half the battle, you know, and that's something that I want to share with everybody today is knowing yourself, you know, and that was another thing that we'll get into in a second, you know, is knowing who you are, knowing who you're not. And I think that was very present this year for me as well, because I kept saying to myself, like, I'm not feeling this anymore. There's a reason. I feel like I am living for an algorithm in order to be seen or to be heard. And I finally got over that because of the tragedy, some of the traumas that I dealt with this year. You know, it's just not me personally, but watching my family deal with some of the traumas that were dealt us this year. You know, the loss of my niece, the loss of, she was 7 years old, you know, the loss of my dog, you know, it all started to build up. And then, you know, our best friend, one of our good friends, dies overnight, unexpectedly, massive heart attack in his sleep. We were just at a Rutgers game the day before. Like, all of these things compiling, and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I living for? A freaking a social media app? Like, what are you doing? And it brings me to my next takeaway, which is do what brings you joy. Do what brings you joy, and stop doing things that you hate doing. You know, there was a part of this year that I hated coming on social media. I did. You might not have seen it. You might not have felt it. But deep inside, I felt like I wasn't having the impact. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And it was just, I was doing it because I needed to do it. Otherwise, my business would disappear if I didn't. And that was a big lie that I told myself. And so I realized that, listen, if you're doing something that you don't like to do anymore, then stop doing it, because look at all the people around you that are literally here one day, gone the next. And I kept putting that into perspective, saying to myself, Henry, you might not be here tomorrow. So are you going to spend the next 3 hours pissing and moaning, doing things that you hate? No. So I took that and I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing other things that aren't work related, because I'm probably like many of you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. Like if you aren't performing, if you aren't producing, you feel like that has some sort of say to who you are as a person. So that means if I'm not a good business person, if I'm not closing more sales, then that means I'm a bad person. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. So I was getting too wrapped up between my business success and my personal success and who I was as a person. And that was killing me. I was losing sleep over it, because all I kept thinking was the fear of loss, the fear of loss of respect, the fear of loss of my family, the fear of loss of clients, the fear of loss of attention. And it was destroying me. And again, it was funny. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, "Oh, you want to meet for coffee?" Because now I have some more time. And you know, she's in the branding space too. She lives in town. I met her on Clubhouse actually earlier this year, and I said, "Oh man, I got so much to catch up on. You know, it's been one hell of a year. Most of it was pretty shit." And she goes, "I couldn't tell." And I said, "Yeah, I kind of kept it under wraps, but I was waiting for this day to share this with you because I want you guys to understand that, you know, I struggle just like you struggle. I'm not always on 100% every day. Yeah, I come with the energy and I come with the right with the energy
I like that.
on these live streams, but man, it definitely took a toll on me today, and I'll share this with you. So I'm going to keep this anonymous. So I think it was last Friday. I didn't have a good day. I just was in my head too much. And my mom, Freudian slip there. My wife was like, you know, you get in these funks during the holidays. And I've seen it for 14 years I've been with you. It's like clockwork. And I'm trying not to get emotional here, but the reason why that is because ever since I was a kid, like, the holidays are supposed to be fun with family and everybody's together and everybody's happy. That wasn't my life growing up. Ever since my parents got divorced, it was like I dreaded the holidays because it was always separate. I didn't have my mother and father there together, right? And as I got older, I would go to my mother's side of the family for Christmas. I would go to we weren't real super close to my father's side. So it was always a separation during the holidays. And it sucked. So that's why I get in funks. Now, my mother not being here for the past 6 years, that's not helpful either. So all I kept thinking about was that, like what I didn't have during the holidays. So I say all of that because that Friday night, I come home and I see a Christmas. It looked like a Christmas card from a client because I recognized the name of the company on the envelope. And I didn't open it. Because I was too much in a bad mood, if you will, to have anything, to see anything happy, if you will, right? So I go upstairs to go to bed because I had enough of the day. And my wife brings up the card. And she says, "You might want to read that." And I was like, all right, I guess. So it was, I think it was addressed to me. So I was like, why are you opening up my mail? But she wound up opening it up anyway, because I think she saw the logo on the envelope. She was like, all right, let me open this up. So again, there's a reason for everything, right? So she opens it up, she brings it upstairs, and she sits it on my dresser, and I'm laying in bed, and I said, all right, fine. Put the light on. And I opened the card up. And I got the card right here, and I promise I won't say any names, keep it anonymous, but talk about timing. Okay? It says this: Henry, I'm writing to say thank you. I sit here reflecting, and I'm grateful for the fact that you came into my life. The last 4 years have been quite a journey. The reality is I don't even recognize the way things used to be. Because you came into my life and remained true to yourself and authentic, my life, my family's lives, my company, and our community are all better. Since 2019, my company has more than doubled in size. My path is clear. My net worth will be over $1 million by Q2 of 2022. But none of that matters if I wouldn't have fixed what matters most. I got my family back. My kids know who I am. I kiss my wife every night. I get to be the fulcrum of change in my family's lineage. It has been a wild road and just the beginning. It all started with one man just being himself. Thank you for being yourself and being part of my life. I couldn't have got that card at a different time. That card changed everything for me. My attitude changed because it reminded me of why I do what I do. So that's huge. It's huge. So I just want to say thanks again for the person who wrote that, because I know they tune in once in a while. But that card helped me that day. And it was so out of the blue. It was so out of the blue.
But you needed it.
And I needed it. And my wife said, see that? Because I was telling her how burnt out I was feeling. And it just sparked something in me. And again, it made me realize what brings me joy. It's getting on these live streams every day and helping you guys become better people. Because if I can help you become a better person, you're going to have a better business. And I truly believe that that's my life's work. It just happens to be through this branding and design and live streaming. I don't know how else I could explain it, but it was definitely a beautiful. Those were beautiful words, and I will have that framed for sure before the new year, because that was just something that I couldn't put words into. So again, doing what brings you joy was one of my biggest takeaways for 2021. So, Oase, give us another one.
All right. So I was able to close higher ticket projects this year compared to, I was already closing high ticket projects last year, but I was able to increase my deal size for those same engagements. And it came as a result of me overcoming my self-limiting beliefs. I was talking about this exact same accomplishment, if you want to call it that, this exact same sort of a progress in my business with someone else yesterday. And he asks me, is it because you felt like you now deserve it? And my response to that was, I don't want to look at it as whether I deserve something or I don't, because that comes from a place of entitlement. It was more around the fact that I now looked at it as a way of, I'm confident with my process. I'm confident with my team's capability. I'm confident in the value that I'm going to help my client generate through this engagement and what I envision for that client by the end of that engagement. I'm so confident in that now I'm going to put a price on this, and I'm no longer attached to the outcome of what the response of that client or prospective client is going to be. Whether it's going to be a yes, this price is consistent with our budget, or no, we don't think that this is worth what you're telling us it's worth. I literally detached myself from that outcome. And I took a chance on myself and I doubled down. And I said, this is where my minimal level of engagement is going to begin from this point forward. And that affirmed it. The minute the client said, this is good to go, that affirmed it. And then it also told me, again, level up.
That's a good point. And I want to add a cherry on top. It reminds me of this quote, and it was funny. I don't even know where I heard it from. Maybe I made it up. I have no idea. But I said to myself the other day, if you don't raise your standard, then the standard will be set for you.
That's right.
And that's something that just kind of stuck with me. And this literally came into my head a couple days ago. And it's funny that you just mentioned this and put this down as one of your key takeaways. And I thought about that. I said, if you want to keep getting these knuckleheads coming at you with these ridiculous offers, I kid, but I'm half serious when I put on social media, specifically Instagram, where like all these people DM me like, hey, do you want to grow your following to 800,000 followers, for $100? You know what I mean? Like that, like if you keep entertaining that nonsense, you're going to keep getting it. So it's not until you raise your standard and set it on your own that eventually those people are going to fall off, because they're going to know that they don't have a shot in hell at you.
And work every day to match that standard. Don't just raise that standard and say, oh yeah, we've raised our standards.
Yeah, it's in the doing.
Yeah, exactly. So act on that and make sure that you're matching that standard or going above that.
Yeah, and you don't have to come across cocky or arrogant or pretentious or anything like that, because I know plenty of people that think that that's what that means, and that's not what that means. It means this isn't adding up in your book, and doesn't matter what other people's books are. It doesn't add up in your book. So that's what matters the most. And that's it. It was so funny today, right? So I'm looking for commercial properties for this other business that me and a partner are starting, right? And I saw this for rent sign, and I called it immediately because property is very scarce around here. And she called me back. And she goes, it's not a residential, it's commercial. I said, yeah, I know. I want a commercial space. And she goes, well, what do you want to put in there? And she's real nasty, like real nasty. And mind you, it's 9:30 in the morning. I was like, this is way too early for nastiness in my life right now. But I let her talk. And she said, well, what do you want to put in here? Because I'm not just going to let anybody come in here and put something. And I go, well, let me ask you a question. Do you want to sell the building? And she goes, absolutely not. And just hangs up on me. And right away, like my initial reaction was like, I'm going to call this woman back. And I was like, why would I waste 1 second more on this person? Right. And I just let it go. And it's funny. 15 minutes before that, I went to another place, and I walked into the place and I said, do you own this? Do you own this store? Yes. How long is your lease on this store? And she goes, why do you ask? I said, because I want to know if you want to be bought out of it, because we like this property. No, I can't. No, this is my bread and butter. I could never do that. Okay, thank you. Have a great day. Got back in my car and left. I got so many no's in the past couple of weeks trying to find this property. It's just part of life. I know that there will be a day where I will get that yes, and that day will come soon. And it's just part of life. So again, you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of people coming your way in the new year, and they're going to think that they're the best solution for you. But again, you got to go by the rules in your book, not their book.
Sorry to cut you off, but two very useful acronyms that I recently came across was the meaning of no and the meaning of now.
I never heard of that.
No is next opportunity.
Oh, right.
Reframing it. Mm-hmm. And then now is no opportunity wasted.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, I like that. that.
Anytime that you're getting a no, if you're consistently getting no's, it just means that it's just the next opportunity.
That's it. It's funny, this whole process that I'm going through with this new business is making me realize who I am as a person. And it makes me realize that like, this is not going to come to fruition next year if I stand on the sidelines and just let the days go by. Like I need to be in mayor's offices. I need to be in front of planning boards. I need to be in front of councilmen and assemblymen and share with them our vision of what this is. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. We're not going to find a location. We won't get our license, and it will be the end of it. And it just made me realize, like, If you're not willing to put in the work, Henry, it's not going to happen. So there's going to come a lot of no's, but all you need is that one yes. And it's game over. It's so funny. I had a dream of this last night. Believe it or not, I was dreaming of the day I got promoted at the hospital when I was working at Hackensack Medical Center. I was like a registrar. So for 3.5 years, that's all I did was check people in to the breast center to make sure their insurance was valid. And I did that for 3.5 years before I got my master's degree and started applying for managerial positions. And I finally got that. I saw that opening at the SID Center in the Children's Hospital, and I applied for it. And my boss at the time, he put me through like 5 interviews. He called me back 5 times before he said yes. And I remember Maggie McKenna. Her name was, I still remember that name. God rest her soul. Poor woman died of cancer years ago, but she was the HR woman there for like 100 years. And I remember getting that phone call that day, and I had this office. Literally, it was like 4 feet wide by like 8 feet long, right? That's how big it was. It was tiny. And I remember getting that call from Maggie saying, Henry, I got a call from so-and-so today. They want to know if you want to accept this position at the Children's Hospital. And I said yes, calmly. I hung up the phone and I screamed at the top of my lungs. I didn't give a shit who was in the waiting room, who I was sitting next to. The receptionist outside, I screamed at the top of my lungs, yes! Because I knew that was going to change my life. And people like ran in like, are you, like, what the hell's the matter? And I was like, I got the job. I was like a 5-year-old kid. And the reason why I bring this up is because last night I had this dream of when that happened. It was like a reenactment. It was like a replay. And we're going for something really big next year. And something just tells me that there's going to come a day in the near future where I'm going to scream like that out of excitement and joy, because it's going to be the next chapter opening for a different part of my life, which I'm so excited for. So I don't want to jinx it. That's why I'm not telling you what it is. But I just got a feeling that that feeling is going to come, that whole experience is going to come again, so long as I continue to work as hard as I do, like I did freaking 15 years ago when I was working at the hospital for that job. I went back 5 times, and every time I went harder in the interview because I wanted to make sure that I was the obvious choice for this position, no one else. And I got it. So I want to just wrap this up with my last takeaway. And my last takeaway kind of brings it full circle. Remember, I told you I made some bad decisions earlier this year, and I don't blame anybody else but myself, because here's what I forgot to do. Did you ever hear that quote, measure twice, cut once? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can measure twice and still cut it wrong. So what I want to do is tell you to hold on one second. I just got to get these spammy people out of here. What I want you guys to do moving forward in 2022 is to measure 3 times and then cut once. So before you make a big purchasing decision, before you bring on another team member, before you make a big investment, make sure you think it through, not once, not twice, but 3 times before you pull the trigger on it.
Do your due diligence.
I cannot express that anymore, because had I done that, I wouldn't have made those bad decisions. I could promise you that. I can promise you that. But the good news is I am such a different person today than I was 12 months ago. And that's the exciting part and the best part of what I learned this year.
And look, hindsight is always 20/20, right? So we look back, I could have done this. I should have done it a little differently like this. But it refines our thinking, it refines our strategy for the next decision.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, and it connects to what you were talking about before about, like, constantly getting no's, right? Same thing here, where you're talking about the decision that you made, whether it's a bad one or a good one, or the right one or the wrong one. You learn from that every single time, and you figure out, again, you refine how to make that same decision next time around.
Now, you notice I never said fail. I didn't fail. I learned.
You learned.
I learned. I didn't fail. I learned. That
Language.
25 grand, I'm never getting that money back.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, I learned all of these. And I have so many more takeaways, guys. But I was like, I got to keep this under 30 minutes. Obviously, we went over, but, Awace gave 3, I gave 3, but there's so many more. But I just want to take 1 second before we wrap up and say thank you to everybody here. Robert Molinay, Amy, Michelle Hill, all of you guys for tuning in so consistently over the past 8-9 months that we started doing this live stream every Monday, every Wednesday. This is the last live stream of 2021, and I'm super proud of it. And I'm super proud of Awace for coming as far as he came in his journey of getting stronger and more impactful and more confident on video, and scoring those higher ticket projects this year. And all of you guys, whatever tidbit or lesson you learn from these live streams, listen, please use them, because life's too short not to. And we only got one shot at this. So we might as well make it the best we can, while we're still here physically. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. And I'm wishing everybody a happy holiday, and go be with your family and hug them and spend time with them. Take the time away from business. I'm not that I'm going to be off the grid, but I'm not going to be doing much work over the next couple of weeks, just a week and a half, I guess, between Christmas and New Year's. I'm just going to chill and recharge, because come January, we're back at it, and we're going to make it happen. So have an amazing, amazing day, and we'll catch you in the new year. Take care.